Awez, and today we are reacting to Why the Concept of Money Sucks by Big Tug. What I've noticed a few years back was basically money is basically very stupid. The concept of that we basically are trading paper for a perceived value is kind of what the frick? But at the same time though, it's the same thing as that orc mentality. As long as everybody's believing in it, then it must be real, right? So I don't know. That's the best weighing I have on this video. So without further ado, comment, like, subscribe, and let's dollar.
With great power comes great responsibility, and you have the power to sign up for extratug.com for exclusive perks and videos. Check it out. Am I still upside down, Chris? Please put me back up normal. My head's getting big. Money. Depending on the size of your bank account and how long you've been in the cycle of poverty, you either think money is the way to happiness or the way to evil skullduggery. Let's be honest with ourselves. People who say money don't buy happiness are stupid idiots who are probably already rich and are just kind of being bitches about it. With more money comes more stuff.
Yes, I completely agree. Money does not dictate your happiness. What I can tell you is this, right? Money gives you fun things to do, right? It will not make you happy, but it will not make you unhappy at the same time. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? As long as you're having fun, bro. Hey. Would I rather cry? Would I rather cry in a shack than cry, than cry in a mansion? You know I'm crying in that mansion, bro. Golly, bro. I hate when niggas say that, bro. I really do hate when niggas say that, bro. It's like they lying to themselves, bro. We broke, bro. We broke. Money's gonna help us. Chill.
More stuff that you like, right? Like if I had more money, I'd be eating more Rice Krispies because I could afford more Rice Krispies and that would make me in turn happier. And also, you don't gotta worry about bills. And bills make me so nervous all the time. Every time I get a notification from my bank, I have a bill to pay, I wanna cry a little bit. And if I just had money, it would be fine. But at the end of the day, regardless of your net worth, you need to understand that it all amounts to nothing because money is fake. Money is not real. And it's kind of scary when you realize that, but none of this is real. And I can hear some of you now, Tucker, if money isn't real, how come I brought 5 quarters into a Burger King and bought a burger? That joke doesn't even work anymore because you can't buy a burger for $1.25. It's all like $4 now because money is fake. And that's where it gets complicated because sure, money is fake, but we've all kind of agreed for it to be real in a fake way so I can buy a house at one point with paper. Money gets its value from the fact that we all collectively with it. It's like a dog on a skateboard. Now, I'm not exactly sure this is ethical, but gosh darn do I want it around at all times. But before any finance fellas come to my comment section telling me about why money's real or whatever, let me clarify what I'm saying here in this video. I understand that money is a representation of value. You work an hour, you get $15 if you're lucky, and that's kind of sad that an hour of your life is worth $15, but that's the intrinsic value of the dollar. But the problem is the value of the dollar is not tangibly related to anything in the real world. There was a time when money was tied to actual resources, shiny metals like silver and gold. Back in the day, if you had a bunch of paper money and you thought to yourself, I don't trust this thing we call the government, you could bring your paper money to someplace and they just give you gold for it because it was a gold standard. You walk into Wells Fargo with $30 in your pocket and walk out with a little gold nugget, and I think that's adorable. I also think it's adorable that people used to go to the bank. When was the last time you went to the bank?
But you can still do that though. You can still do that whole getting your money, getting gold for the money you have, but you got to do it from like the Swiss account or something like that. Yeah. You can still buy gold, bro. You can still do that, but in America, no, you can't. You can't. Don't even.
You went to the bank. I can take a picture of a check on my phone, and the next day there's money in my account. There's no reason to go to the bank. But anyway, back to the gold standard real quick. America has so much gold that we built Fort Knox just to store all of it. And Fort Knox is crazy. It's a 109,000 acre military base that only exists to protect our gold. Literally, there are D&D campaigns that are based around things more real than this. The actual building where the precious metals are stored is called the United States Bullion Depository. That's weird. I thought bullion was them little cubes you put in soup, but I guess I'm not smart. Anyway, as you you'd imagine, the depository is pretty much off limits to the public, and the security measures are insane. It's protected by layers upon layers of steel, concrete, and armed guards. It's like what James Bond was breaking into a lot of the time. And that old saying, you need to spend money to make money, really applies here because America spends $5 million a year just protecting its gold. Now, personally, I've always imagined Fort Knox to be...
But it makes sense though, because that's how they can get a lot of they can ask for a lot of money, because people can leverage that gold as them being able to pay whatever they owing or whatever debt they create off. So yeah, it makes sense to protect your gold, because if you protect your gold, you can ask more money from different countries. Then it makes sense. I'll definitely protect my gold.
Fort Knox to be a big empty room full of gold coins that Scrooge McDuck swims in, but it turns out not a lot of people can get in there. In fact, only one president in history has ever even been inside Fort Knox, and that was FDR. Yeah, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I didn't say that right. Yeah, as I expected, he did not swan dive into the gold as I was hoping, so that's a bummer. But in 1971, Nixon banned foreign governments from exchanging US dollars for gold, effectively ending the gold standard. So if money isn't backed by a commodity, then what value is it representing? Nothing. Everyone say it together. We're That's correct. Most modern money isn't backed by anything tangible. It's just our collective belief in the numbers in the database. This loosey-goosey system of cheddar is called fiat currency.
So why is the gold still protected then? If it doesn't have, if you can't exchange it for anything, why is it still protected? Or am I too stupid to understand what he just told me? I might be too stupid to understand what he told me.
Currency, and its value is derived solely from society's trust. And if that doesn't make you not sleep at night, I don't know what will, because our entire economy is based off of a trust fall. But it's actually even a little more terrifying than that. The key to a fiat currency isn't just trust in the money itself, it's trusting the hand behind the person issuing the money, aka Uncle Sam. And by this point in history, we have absolutely zero reason to trust the government. I've made so many videos breaking down just how the American government has been. They've spied on us. They've drugged us without our consent constantly. It's pretty wild to think that every financial transaction includes an implied thumbs up to the US government. And the US isn't alone in using a fiat currency. Almost 100% of every economy in the world does that too. And even more alarming is that 92% of this money, which is already backed by nothing, only exists in digital form. Even if paper money is useless, I can still hold a fat stack of bills up to my ear like I'm making a phone call and feel like I have something, instead of just a number on my phone. What the does that mean? To my brain, there's some inherent logic in physically having more, but now we have the already abstract idea of fiat currencies existing only theoretically on some digital database. We're just doing your banking app might as well be a high stakes calculator. That's all what's going on right now. It's just a number on a screen. We don't have money anymore, we have numbers, and that should terrify you. But there is a reason why governments went away from the gold standard and went to fiat.
That is concerning, is it not? Like, I mean, do we actually have any money? Like, what is money then? What is valuable? I need to sit down and think about this one, bro.
Went to fiat currencies, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I hope it's not fiat or some shit like that. But fiat currencies have some logistical advantages that make them desirable for governments. They ease the physical demands of sourcing and protecting physical commodities, and most importantly, they allow governments to have control over manipulating their economies. Without the need to back your money by anything tangible, you can just print more money and no one really gives a shit. Which leads us to that age-old question, if everyone's so poor, why don't we just print more money? And then the finance fellows in the comments are going to tell you why that's a pretty bad idea. Printing more money is a bad idea because it always leads to wild inflation. But since we're already balls deep into the abstract world of finance, it's not much of a stretch to view a government that decides to expend lending as one that's essentially flooding the economy with more imagination units. If used properly, a government's control over fiat currencies could theoretically help stabilize economies. That happens sometimes. It doesn't happen often. And of course, I'm oversimplifying it. There's tons of things that go into, making an economy work and not work. Like, for instance, wage stagnation, which is an entirely different video in itself, wage stagnation. But I do want to note that since 2001, the cost of a good quality of life has doubled, and we haven't gotten more money to get paid with. That means that 60% of American households don't have enough imagination units to have a good life. Over half of the country is giving power to the money printed by a government that won't raise the minimum wage or stand up to big business. We're just I mean, sometimes I wonder if we should just go back to a time where you could pay for a slab of meat with teeth. Ancient cultures use some pretty wild things as money, though I kind of think their tangibility makes a lot more sense than modern currency. So here are just a few examples of ancient currency that makes just a little bit more sense than our current system. Number 1, as early as 1200 BCE, cowrie shells were used as one of the first forms of money.
Yeah, I've seen these shells a lot of times. I think maybe I had one. No, yeah, I think maybe I had one on me. No, I think my sister had one. But yeah, that's for something else. But yeah, I know these beads, these shells.
Of money. Cowrie, it doesn't matter. This was the past. They had intrinsic value because they were decorative, durable, and difficult to forge. Trading shells for a currency makes sense on a deeply ingrained lizard brain level. You know what I'm saying? When you're a kid at the beach, finding a big shell is the bee's knees. It's the tits. The cooler the shell looks, the more valuable it feels. So I understand these cave people walking around being like, I like that shell. I'll give you meat for that shell. Honestly, I think we should go back to using shells as currency. Raise your hand if you're on the tug train on that one. On the Micronesian Isle of Yap, massive limestone discs were used as money. The value of each stone was determined by its size, craftsmanship, and the story behind the stone. Kind of like how art is not worth anything unless the artist is dead or mentally ill. Something along those lines. For example, if someone died while transporting the stone would be immediately worth more money. I enjoy these type of stakes in currency. In a way, they level the playing field. Making $1 million because you sit in a room.
Yeah, it's all fun and games until they start, people just to raise it up. These finance bros will do it, bro. They'll probably like, yo, bro, take this and send it to this guy. Yeah. Hit him. Yeah, bro.
Sit in a room and tell people how to invest is boring. But if you steal a couple $100,000 from a bank and then get in a shootout with the cops, well, that's plain badass. The danger should make crime money worth more than the money that stockbrokers are getting in fees. You know what I'm saying? Money with a story. Every dollar bill should have a little thing on it that said, I sucked for this $5 bill. That should be worth 10. But of all the ancient currencies, my favorite is by far teeth. I love teeth as a currency, and it happens several times. Indigenous cultures across the world have used animal teeth as money, and this makes so much sense to me. There is a finite amount of teeth in every animal's head, so the scarce...
And the orcs. The orcs has done the same thing too. If you know, you know.
The scarcity is already there. Plus, you can't just get animal teeth easily. You can't, walk up and pluck one out and run away. You have to fight an animal and win. And the teeth these people were using, it wasn't like rabbit teeth. It was like whale teeth, boar teeth, wolf teeth. That's putting some real skin in the game. And once again, that's what I think money should be about. It should be a competition, not a collection. Now, it makes sense that we used commodities for commerce before the concept of printed money. But even after the creation of coins and bills, weird alternative forms of currency thrived in modern societies. Of course, you still have the bartering systems that exist solely in the middle schools and prisons of our country, where cigarettes are king in both scenarios. But the education system and prison industrial complex are both unruly, Lord of the Flies-esque nightmares. There are still plenty of examples of alternative currency that thrived within the confines of a polite society. For example, in the 1630s, Holland became obsessed with tulips for some reason. The flower had recently been introduced to the country and they were considered extremely exotic. As a result, they became a status symbol for the upper class. But tulips take years to grow, so the supply was limited and couldn't match the demand. This gave rise to a speculative market where people were buying tulips as currencies, as an investment. Soon, a single tulip bulb was worth $100,000. Things got so out of hand that a futures market was created for tulips so they could be traded before they even bloomed. Of course, this was all unsubstantiated and led to a market crash that made many Dutch traders broke without a buck. And I think it's interesting that this tulip market mirrors exactly what the Beanie Baby craze was in America in the 90s. So that's crazy that tulips predated the Beanie... Is there a tulip Beanie Baby? Chris, put up a picture of that. But it wasn't just the Dutch who thought plants were money, because early American colonists were with money plants too. But instead of flowers, they used hemp. Like the weed plant? Hemp was an essential plant before the creation of the cotton gin. It was what we made most of our paper, clothing, and rope with. And because of its necessity, farmers in Virginia, Maryland, and Pennsylvania were legally required to grow it. This coincided with a shortage of coins, which led farmers to use hemp to sell to pay off taxes and debts and like that. And if it wasn't for their witch burning and extreme Christianity, early colonists could probably be seen as our first hippies. They're already trading hemp for food and paying off debts. They might as well be in a Grateful Dead parking lot tossing around the sack. But as crazy as it sounds to trade tulips, hemp, cigarettes, or Beanie Babies as currency,
But the witch burnings were very crazy, bro. I mean, absolutely crazy, bro. When I first heard about it, bro, that's one of the reasons why I was like, you know what? No, thank you, Christianity. I took a step back from the religion, bro. No lie. I don't want to talk about my religion or anything like that, but I'm just saying, bro, it was that crazy. I was like, yo, what the heck? I do not want to be associated with this. And I was like 13 at the time, bro. So yeah.
It pales in comparison to the dipshittery that is cryptocurrency. You know that old saying, when all you have is a hammer, everything just looks like a nail? That's pretty much what's happening with technology at this point. Tech bros are running wild. All they know is technology, and they use it in every possible scenario. And maybe this wouldn't be so bad if it were mitigated, but since they're the richest and most influential people on this planet, everyone listens to their bullshit. Because of course he's really smart. He's got $1 billion. You can't just get $1 billion because your parents were rich and you just landed in a couple good investments. That would be ridiculous to think that. In terms of dumbassery, cryptocurrency is a perfect example of rich people telling you the wrong thing. The idea is that by decentralizing money, we can avoid inflation or currency manipulation and not have to deal with the government or banks acting as a middleman. Which sounds great. It sounds fantastic on paper, or not paper, on a screen. But the reality is that this money is extremely volatile. It can gain and lose half its value in 1 month. Yeah, fiat currencies rely on our trust of governments, which is not ideal, but at least that's a well-entrenched concept with some staying power. Crypto relies on our trust in technology. And you know, we've seen those tech bubbles burst before. Chris, put up a screenshot of, like, I don't know, the dot-com crash. I don't know. So, you know, it just happens all the time. We literally, there was a crash of NFTs a couple years ago. Why would you put your trust in this kind of thing? Without any real intrinsic value, crypto is...
Yeah, NFTs were the ish, bro. NFTs was the you know what I'm saying? It was there, bro. It was there. They were like they were treating it like the next Bitcoin, bro. And everybody was in it. Especially when people heard the next Bitcoin, I must invest. I want to get fucked. I want to get fucked. Oh, that's the thing about money, bro. It's a scary thing, bro. You can get fucked, dog. You can, bro. You can. And it's one of the only places where, it's one of the only industries, one of the only industries where swearing every day, all the time, is normal and expected. If you don't, you have a screw loose.
Is basically driven by hype. Holes like Elon Musk will tweet about a meme coin and the price will shoot up for like an hour until everyone sells. Honestly, to me, as someone as an outsider and anyone else with a brain, it seems like a mid-level marketing scheme, aka an MLM. Triangle, pyramid scheme. Without any regulations or protections, scams, theft, and pump and dump schemes are incredibly common. Still, we've got tons of rich people telling us that this is the future of finance. But guess what? They're doing that for a reason. They need us to buy in. Because our trust in their bullshit is the only way to create value for this brand new imagination unit. Once again, another imagination unit. And how do they get us all on the train? Well, enlist some celebrities. Dumbasses love celebrities. Oh my god, you don't have an NFT? Matt Damon has an NFT. We love Matt. Good Will Hunting, you love Matt Damon. But with failed cryptocurrency exchanges and cratering NFT markets, these celebrities have been taken to court along with tech bros. 2 separate lawsuits in 2023 named a laundry list of A-listers as defendants, including, and this is a bummer list because there's a lot of people on this list I do respect, but Larry David, Tom Brady, Giselle, Steph Curry, Shaq, Kevin Hart, Gwyneth Paltrow, Madonna, Justin Bieber, Jimmy Fallon, Paris Hilton, Snoop Dogg, The Weeknd, and Post Malone. Austin, what are you doing? Because crypto is unregulated, it is a very risky investment. And there's nothing wrong with a risky investment, but you have to know it's risky going into it. You can't be told it's a done deal. However, fiat currencies are usually protected by the governments that issue them. In the US, it's the Federal Reserve that looks after consumers and investors. But do you know about the Federal Reserve? Can we talk about that real quick? What do you think the Federal Reserve is? Like me, you'd think it's a part of the government that makes the money go good, right? Well, apparently it's not that simple. Not even close. This is a very complicated thing, so I'm going to try and put it in the dumbest terms I possibly can so I can even understand it. The Federal Reserve is an entity that's structured like a corporation, but it operates independently within the government. And while it's self-funded and in charge of its own policy decisions, it still has to answer to Congress. So Congress keeps it accountable, but it's not part of the...
Okay. I don't know if this is true or this is just a theory, but I've heard before that the Rothschilds and some other business family created the Federal Reserve Bank, right? And since then, they've been controlling the quote unquote American money, which is kind of scary. Does that mean like your America's royalty is the Rothschilds, right? Because you control the money of a country, you control the country. Same thing that happened to Britain with was it the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers? But I don't know these rich people. It's like rich people. Like, what am I gonna gain from learning these remembering these people's names? But you know what I'm saying, though, right? That's crazy. That is crazy.
Not part of the government. Sure, it doesn't make any sense. But like, what else are we gonna do? We're too stupid to even understand the concept of it. How are we gonna fix this? At least the Federal Reserve can save us from financial disasters, right? The Federal Reserve was created in 1913. And you know, the Great Depression hit 16 years later. In fact, some historians think that the Fed made the Great Depression even worse. After the stock market crash of 1929, citizens made a panicked run to the bank and removed all of their money. The Fed went against its own policy of protecting failing banks and pretty much just said, "Tough titties, we don't know what's going on right now." And well, the banks failed, pretty miraculously. In 2002, the governor of the Fed, which is a real title, he's like the governor of a town, but it's the Federal Reserve, he even said, "We did it," in reference to their role in exacerbating the Great Depression. But by the time the 2008 recession started hitting the scene, the Fed had learned a few lessons. After the housing market crashed, they jumped into action, bailing out banks and slashing rates while expanding access to credit. So see, they fixed it. They fixed the 2008 recession. I must have dreamt that. Oh wait, no, they didn't. But they probably played a role in enabling the housing bubble by keeping interest rates too low after the 2001 recession. Damn, is it just me, or has there been a lot of recessions in my lifetime? A lot of Gen Z millennial recessions. Things are bad. Things have been bad. In the 112-year existence of the Federal Reserve, there have been somewhere along the lines of 20 recessions. I guess them are good numbers? I don't know. Sounds like a lot to me. Although it does beat the alternative that we had before the creation of the Federal Reserve, which is just hoping that the richest man on earth, JP Morgan, would bail out the banks if something went wrong. So I guess that would be Elon Musk in this scenario, or Jeff Bezos, and I don't think he gives a Now, as vital as money is to us poors, it really
Yes. Hey, you know, though, I don't know. I don't know. I can't, bro. These niggas do a lot of extra. It's just like, I don't even know your strategy. What is your goal exactly? So, I don't know. Besides that, though, I think I'm just gonna leave this video here. It was an interesting video, bro. It was a very interesting video. Watch the rest of the video, Big Tug. And yeah, man. Thank you for watching the rest of the video. Thank you for chilling with your Owen. And comment, like, subscribe. And until next time, I've been the last Owen.